Mhm.
დღესდღეობით ჩვენ მრავლად ხედავთ ადამიანთა ჯგუფებს, რომლებიც საკუთარი თუ სხვისი უფლების დასაცავად პროტესტს გამოთქვამენ და აფიქსირებენ თავიანთ პოზიციას. ვინ არიან ისინი, ვინც პროტესტის დროს გვერდ-გვერდ დგანან? გაგიკვირდებათ და განსხვავებული მსოფლხედვის, სექსუალური ორიენტაციის, სქესის, ასაკის და ფიზიკური შესაძლებლობების ადამიანებს ვხედავთ ერთი ინტერესის ირგვლივ გაერთიანებულთ. თუმცა, მიუხედავად კანონის წინაშე თანასწორობისა, ხშირად საზოგადოების პრივილეგირებული ჯგუფები ხელს უშლიან უმცირესობებს, რომ ისინიც ჩაერთონ პროტესტში საკუთარი პოზიციის დასაფიქსირებლად. გამოგყვებით ჩვენს საინტერესო პოდკასტში და სწორედ პროტესტის თავისუფლად გამოხატვაზე ვისაუბრებთ.
Hi, this is our last edition of the podcast of intersectionality in political mobilization. And this is the last day of this year. And I would wish everyone, of course, happy upcoming year. And may the next upcoming 2022 be more inclusive, more democratic, and less dangerous for people around the world who are trying to bring their ideas to the light and voice their concerns. And may this world be more barrier-free for all next and all the upcoming years. Today we will speak with Polina Burko from Belarus, from Young Greens, and she will talk about her journey in protest, but also the general situation in Belarus, political migration that has been very prominent this year. And just before we start, generally speaking, why do we have this podcast? Of course, we see a lot of protests around our Eastern Europe and Central Europe and the post-Soviet space, so to call it. But who are usually more visible at these protests? And these are people who are more privileged and those who belong to certain minority backgrounds, such as persons with disabilities, women, and LGBTQI persons usually are less visible. Again, to illustrate this situation, when a lot of LGBTQI persons participate in protests here in Georgia, but when I wanted to reach out and ask one of them to come to this podcast and speak about his or her experience, nobody really came forward and nobody agrees to self-identify. And this is just one indicator of how the oppressive societies work, unfortunately, that they keep people in dark, keep people invisible. So Polina, once again, thank you for joining us today on the New Year's Eve. Please start with just general overview of your organization, and then how did you decide to join the protests?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, hello. My name is Polina Burko. I'm a member of Belarusian Young Greens. It is a small now organization, maybe initiative, better to say, who fights for climate justice, for feminism, for LGBTQ plus rights. In general, how I decided to join Belarusian Young Greens, it's like a long story. Actually, it happened really accidentally, just better to say randomly, just because I was invited by some friends, and I really enjoyed what Belarusian Greens are doing. Actually, in general, what Greens are doing in Belarus, and that's how I started my way. Also, besides Belarusian Greens, I'm an active participant of protests against the dictatorship in Belarus. And those protests I actually started even before 2020, even before our protest became popular, let's say. It all started for me in 2016, in the end of that year, when I was 17 years old. With a parasite decree, we had a kind of law that asked people who don't work to pay tax for them not being working.
Have heard of that, yeah.
Yes, which is really weird. And in the end of 2016, protests started against that decree, and it happened that my mom was connected with that. She is not working. and she had to pay a really huge tax. So she was the one who said me like, oh, let's go to the protest, and we went there together, and yeah, that's how it all started. And probably the biggest protest for me was when I was 18, like the first biggest protest when I was 18, and it was the beginning of 2017, 25th of March. We have a day of freedom in Belarus, which is not official day. It's actually forbidden in Belarus. Day of freedom. It's not a joke. But that day, there was a protest for this day of freedom, and also against the decree that asked to pay if you don't work. And yeah, me and my mom went to that protest, and that's how I, for the first time, saw everything that actually regime can do with people. So yeah.
So you were then, you also got enrolled into university probably, right?
University protests came later. Yes, but in 2020.
So it's interesting that your mother was also very involved. Did she also have to leave, or she's still in Belarus as well?
Yeah, she's still in Belarus. That's why it's probably better not to speak about it a lot. But yeah, she was involved, and yeah, she's the one who is always with me.
Yeah, that's very important. I think from my personal experience, often it's much harder to actually win the fights at home than the ones that are outside of home. So yeah, having support of your family members is probably one of very important aspects of the activism, and one of the biggest motivators, I would say. So tell me a little bit more about the Young Greens work in general. What can you do, or how do you work? Can you actually achieve something in the, let's say, authoritarian system? Are any of your demands met?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because usually when people ask me about Belarusian Young Greens now, I would not say something, like that we are doing huge things just because we actually can't do them. It's really dangerous. Many people from just Greens, like who fight for ecology, are imprisoned already, or they had to leave Belarus. And it's better to say that now we are a small initiative that just make some things happen. And yeah, before the presidential elections, yes, we did some things which were like kind of huge for Belarus, and yeah, but later we just
Can you name some examples of what were you
sure,
doing?
of course. First of all, we actually participate on international level. We work with CDN, Cooperation Development Network Eastern Europe, which is like network of green organizations around Eastern Europe, and also we work with the FYG, Federation of Young European Greens, who stands for Europe as a whole. In Belarus, we did such things like, for example, we went to investigation on one factory, which is really dangerous in Belarus, in Svetlovodsk town. We did a research about the city and about how people are against the factory.
Why is the factory dangerous? Actually, I was going to ask, what are the main environmental challenges in Belarus?
Why the factory is dangerous? It's a long story. Well, there is kind of new factory in Svetlovodsk. Svetlovodsk is a small town in Homel region of Belarus, which has actually many factories, different, like a town with factories. I don't know how it's called, but like town that was created by factories.
Industrial town.
Industrial,
probably.
yeah, thanks. And there is a factory for, I don't know how to say it in English. It's Bilonets Viloza. Let me maybe translate.
Can you say it again?
Bilonets Viloza.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that kind. It's kind of some kind of material. Yeah.
Let me translate. A bleached pulp plant. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, it was made by Chinese investors, and probably the building of this factory was really corrupt. Not probably, it's actually almost obvious. So it was really corrupted, and people who built this factory didn't care actually about filters, for example, and about the safety of this factory. So it happened. It turned out that when the factory started to work, people who are living near it, they started to feel like the smell, a really horrible smell. And after that, health issues of those people started to appear. Many people got cancer, and it was officially stated, but the officials didn't want to do anything with that, and that's why we started to do our investigation, also with Green Network of Belarus. But yeah, our investigation was kind of because it's dangerous for us, and we just said, for example, that I was asking people that, yeah, I'm writing my diploma for the university, like a research for the university, and they want to say about the cultural, how to say, like about the ecological influence on cultural life of your town. And I asked them, like, what do you think about Chernobyl? Are there any events about Chernobyl? Because it's also close to Chernobyl zone. And all of them, I didn't even mention that factory, but all of them just started to talk about factory. Like, yeah, there are some events about Chernobyl, but we also want some events about that factory that actually kills us. And yeah, it was, wow, I don't know. For me, it was a huge surprise because I didn't know. Like, I was coming there, I didn't know what to expect. But people started to say things themselves. Yeah.
Right, that's very interesting, and yeah, it's a lot. I can see how risky it could have been. So, what were the risks? Like, what is the worst the activist can, like the worst trouble that the activists can get into in Belarus? Is it prison? Is that death threats? Is that actual death? I mean, how severe this can be?
About this, but it didn't happen with protesters. I think because of the international pressure, and I think just Lukashenko is scared to do that because maybe something will happen after. But yeah, mostly people are getting imprisoned or, yes, imprisoned basically. And unfortunately, in Belarusian prison, it's not just like being arrested; they also do many violent things for you, and yeah.
Yes, imprisonment and torture.
Yeah.
Which is already a lot. So as you work and have been working also on LGBTQI plus issues and persons and their rights, did you see a lot of members of this community protesting, and what were, if any, additional like barriers or additional threats that they were facing because of their involvement in protests, for example?
Yeah, I know only some stories, some cases, but I can also talk in general. In general, yeah, I think every person whom I know from different LGBTQ plus organizations and just like people whom I met in protest during the protest, yeah, they were actively participating against the regime, and they're still actively participating. What can I say? For example, Lukashenko and his regime are really homophobic. I think it's obvious, and he himself told many times on television like some violent things about LGBTQ plus people. But on the protests, of course, LGBTQ plus people try to show themselves, try to make themselves visible, and there were some people who came to the protest with LGBTQ plus flags. And I would not say that there was like something towards them. They were just participants of the protest, and that's it. But I don't feel that people are like tolerant, because still there were many arguments after the protest that all people came to our like Belarusian protest with white, red, and white flags. but they also opened their LGBTQ plus flags. Oh, we don't want it, and there were like lots of arguments about it because other people started to explain that it's also human right and you should accept also like everyone. But yeah, I really love that like people try to communicate and to explain each other why it's important.
So it was there were questions even amongst the protesters if this is acceptable or not. If I understood correctly.
I'm sorry.
So there were even controversies amongst the protesters.
Yeah, but
about.
Yeah, and also even in our small communities, for example, I don't know if you know, but in Belarus there are like small yard chats for people who live near, like for neighbors. And even in our small chat, there was an argument, and one person said like, "Oh, I don't want to say to see such kind of people in Belarus," but other neighbors started to explain him really confidently why it's important. But usually it's like a small amount of people who don't accept, but still they don't want to. They want to be like loud.
Yeah,
and that's the main reason.
Do you think LGBTQ plus persons would be more endangered in prison than, let's say, straight protesters?
Sure, of course. And there are some cases. One of them is actually of my friend, who is representative of another organization called New Regions. He was arrested in August in 2020, and he had a flashcard with him with some materials for his organization. And when police found out it, they told us, I remember that for him it's better to die. Like this, they told it straight, like just openly. And also they were just discussed, but fortunately they didn't do anything else. They just arrested him, and I think a few days later he was released.
Yeah.
But also there was a really huge case that happened a few weeks ago in Belarus. There's a person from A1 company, is a mobile network, and he was arrested. And after his arrest, police started to investigate his apartment, and they found out many like lots of information about him, including that he's gay. And also they found out sex toys, but as I understand, this was not from his flat, but they showed like it was from his flat. So they started to mock him, and he's now in prison with criminal case, and we don't even know what's happening with him. We're really afraid. But yeah, they started to mock him everywhere that he's gay and that he's like kind of not a good person because of it.
Yeah. Right, that all is very, very unfortunate, of course, and makes it even harder for people to come forward and voice their views and be visible and be part of the protests even. And another thing is what I was going to ask is, are there any paramilitary groups that oppose and that are against the protests and against LGBTIQ plus persons, or is it just the state-sponsored violence?
I think on the state, like I never saw someone who is not from the state organizations or state institutions. About people who are opposite the opposition, like who support the regime, there are only people who just believe in official television, but they mostly don't do anything violent. I mean, violent in physical way, but they can just call the police and say that, oh, we have some new stickers in our yard. Please come to find who made it. Or they can just talk. They can just say who made it, and police come to this person. It's like it's called donos in it was in Soviet Union, and it's the same in Belarus now.
Yeah, just tell on somebody. So my next question is, a lot of people, a lot of protest leaders, and a lot of active protesters have actually left Belarus. So I was wondering if it's still possible to keep the protest alive or keep the dissenting opinion alive, because maybe the ultimate goal of the regime is exactly that, to just drive all differently thinkers out of country and then do as they please?
Yes, of course, that's their goal, but maybe they think that they will succeed in it, but I don't think so, because even if we are not in Belarus anymore, we will fight abroad. And also, not only like protests play role. There are also some different other different instruments, and especially economical instrument that probably will be the thing that will help us to finally get rid of dictatorship.
Right. Actually, I was going to ask about the role of business, especially in terms of environment, because in many hybrid countries, so for example, here in Georgia, it's also the business owners who own those different companies that pollute the environment, who are, of course, against the protesters and who are interested in somehow deterring them from voicing their opinions. So who whether it's interesting if they are involved in Belarus as well in suppressing the protest opinion, or it's just the state?
Mm, Also, good question, because it's hard to answer it properly. As most organizations, which are like huge ones, they're all of them mostly connected with the regime, and like not maybe not not straightly connected, but the heads of them can be like people who are friends of Lukashenko, and yeah, of course they're against the protesters, and they try to do many things, but
Right, but these are not state-owned firms, though.
yeah, just friends of Lukashenko.
Right. Another big question is also, how do you know, like, when you are in danger as an activist, as protester? Well, I mean, obviously during the protests, when the police is coming with different weaponry, then of course you know. But rather than that, how do you know when you should leave? Do you receive any threats, or any case has been started, any investigation that let you know that you should leave, or how did it happen?
We actually never know for sure. Like it's even hard to say. For me, it was, I don't know. I just this whole year I just lived in constant fear, and I couldn't even live properly because I had mental issues because of it. It's like hard to be at home but still not feeling safe. And I don't know. It really depends. For some person, they can, for example, understand that maybe criminal case is going to appear on them soon, and they're just living. For some, just people who are working in some institutions or who know more, they can just tell them that be careful and maybe something is going to happen. For some people just left because of because they were arrested and they were beaten and they just left because of it. For me, I got I say yeah, as I already told you before this before the recording. For me, yes, I got some messages telling that I should be careful because of searches, investigations, and arrests for people who observed the elections in 2020. And also, like many many Belarusian media say that it's time before referendum in Belarus, and yeah, everyone should be careful because Lukashenko tries to clean the space.
Do these topics appear on the official media as well? Like, do they say that, oh, we're going after all of these quote unquote like foreign agents, or they're just silent about this?
Also, good question. Mostly they are not silent. They try to move people, and but they don't openly do it. For example, I can't know beforehand that something is going to happen just because of state media, because of course they want to arrest people, and of course they will not do that beforehand, so the people will not know that they should leave. But also there is one pro-regime Telegram channel called Желтые Sliver, and sometimes they do things like that. They write personal things about people, and of course, if they write something about you, you know that yes, you must leave Belarus. But it depends. Like it's usually only connected with some, spicy stories of activists, and they just, dig into personal lives of people and write about different things. And yeah, of course, but like it depends on the person. We never know.
Okay. No, but what I was actually asking is that if this gets publicized, if the state is actually saying that they are persecuting people like massively, or they try to hide it and say, we don't have any political prisoners, we don't arrest anyone, or
No, they don't hide it. They even make advertisement on YouTube. Like between videos, you can see people who are telling that yeah, we were protesting, and sometimes you can see bruises on their faces and other things, and they do it openly. They openly show that they're beating people, they're doing bad things with them. Yeah, but beforehand, before they arrest, they usually don't do so.
Right. No, I mean, of course, they don't warn you that you will be arrested, but yeah. So that's the question: that is this crackdown publicized? Because here in Georgia, usually the government is saying we do not have any political prisoners. We don't violate the protesters. We don't. That's what they are usually in a state of denial.
So no, in Belarus, I think it's quite different.
Thank you very much for this really meaningful and insightful discussion. I'm wishing to ask you, because that's the very like personal question, experience-based question. What would you tell other protesters or people who want or think about protesting? What is important to know? Like, how should they prepare emotionally for this? Because it seems like it's not an easy task. So you have to prepare yourself before you do it. What would you suggest this kind of people to know?
It's hard for me to suggest anything because I faced many problems myself, and they still don't know how to figure it out, how to survive with everything that they got after the protest, including personal traumas. But I don't know. I think the best thing to be like you should be prepared. Like mentally, you should understand that you're going to protest, and many things can happen, including violence. And yeah, that's the only thing that helps, because as I understand, for me, like for the beginning of the protest in 2020, I could survive just because I knew beforehand that many things can happen because I saw them in 2017. That's
right.
it.
Right. Well, good luck. Stay safe. And I wish that everyone keeps up the energy somehow and still finds some strength to come forward. I also would wish to see more people coming forward and replacing those who, let's say, had to quit for at least a little while and take some rest and take some time. But this really has to go on, even if it's not very, very massive and very widespread. But the protest and the dissenting opinion has to be lingering around all the time. And I wish you all happy New Year and a peaceful one. With more freedom, of course, and more equality around the world and in our countries that really need it. And with this, I would like to close up this podcast until maybe sometime we will renew it later on. I would like to thank all our listeners and all our audience, and also our guests who volunteered to participate and dedicated their time. Good luck, everyone, and Happy New Year.